fighting in order to live, and living to fight. That's the way of our world, Aionios. Cruel irony that it should mean eternity, because slowly but surely, our world is now dying. Even though we have yet to realize that fact.
Worry about yourself, Noah. There's still more of them.
Even so.
Shut it! Stop flapping your gums and move!
Yeah, we've got more incoming.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was announced as the final announcement in the Nintendo Direct on February 9th, 2022. I was extremely excited for this game as I loved Xenoblade 1 and 2, and I'm a huge Xenoblade fan. But all we kind of got for a while was that first trailer and a little bit about the main characters. We got their names and their ages. But besides that, we didn't have anything to go on the game for about 2 months. And those 2 months, man, those were the hardest 2 months to go by. Just wanting new news every single day. But then on April 19th, Nintendo shadow dropped a trailer showing the release date. Originally, in that direct, they announced the release date as September 2022. But in this release date trailer, it got pushed forward to July 29th, 2022. It also showed us a lot more about the game and what we would be experiencing, as pretty much before that, we were left completely in the dark. There still wasn't much to go on based on the two trailers, but we were able to get a general picture of what we could expect. So, after it releasing now on July 29th, 2022, and it's been out for a couple of months, I have 400 hours on it. Yeah, I liked the game, what can I say? I just wanted to talk, did it live up to my expectations? Did it go above them? Did it just barely meet them? Did it go below them, but I still enjoyed it? Is it my favorite in the series? Is it my least favorite in the series? Do I think it's objectively the best? Objectively the worst? Just, I wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on my favorite game of this year. So before we get into actual gameplay or anything, I thought I should set up the premise for the story. So, your main party is composed of the characters Noah.
This is what we're meant to do. To send on the voices of the departed is an Overseer's purpose.
Mio.
I've thought about this a lot. About what I can achieve. What I'll leave behind.
Uni.
Ready, he says. From the moment I chose this muddy path, I've been more than ready.
Tyon.
If anything, we should be questioning all that we've thought to be true. Differences are all a matter of perspective.
Lance.
The spark you on about? I'm not gonna let you take the fall alone.
And Senna.
The truth is, she's terrified. She needs someone to tell her that everything will be all right.
3 of them coming from Keves, 3 of them coming from Agnes, the 2 nations locked in war in Aionios. Due to unforeseen circumstances in their newest mission, they are forced to meet. At first, they fight each other, but due to the appearance of a mysterious man from some third nation they didn't know of, they stop fighting and put away their differences, and they gain the power of Ouroboros.
Not over yet!
An Overseer? Really? Miyabi? This is all such a waste. Mio, is that why you're here? For recognition? Mio, I was just looking for a training partner. You've nothing to apologize for. Mio, Sana, take this. I'm giving you my whole self. So please, live life in my stead. Miyabi! For now, just run. Run with all the breath you have. We can take care of ourselves. Stop crying, lads. It won't change anything.
Why?
How are you inside here? Inside? Hold on. Are we?
So they can fight against Mobius and free the world from the Endless Now. That's all I'm gonna say, because this story is something you'd want to experience for yourself. It was pretty good. Pretty fucking good. Probably one of my favorite stories in any game I've played. It all felt pretty well paced until around the end, when it kind of fell off a little bit, like just a small bit. Like, it felt pretty, like... It just... The pacing and things got a bit weirder near the end. Up until like chapter 5 and the start of 6, it was perfect. Everything was perfect, and then it went back into full gear again at the end of chapter 7, which was the last one. It picked up again at the ending, like the very end. It had a bit of pacing issues in the end, but overall very good story, and I would recommend it to anyone. Even if you don't want to play the game, watch like the cutscenes on YouTube, or even the main cutscenes. Like, look up important cutscenes and you can probably find them. It's a story worth checking out in some department. The story is kind of more of a character-focused story with big plot points, obviously. Like, for some of them, for example, you have Mio and her 3 months remaining before she goes poof. Then she gone, she dead, nothing left. They're an enemy to the entire world ever since they became Ouroboros, thanks to Mobius. So they have the conflict of basically every colony out to get them. And then obviously there'll be some conflicts that pop up throughout the game. The World of Aionios, which Xenoblade 3 takes part in, is home to amazing landscapes, such as Milik Meadows, Makatha Wildwood, Great Cot Falls, Erythia Sea, and the Great Sword's Base. There are more areas than that, but I thought I'd just list some of my favourites. Debatable on the Milk Meadows part, but it's like the main grassland area of the game, so I kind of have to talk about it, you know? My opinions may be mixed on it, but I feel like I should talk about it. So, unlike the previous games, where every area would be kind of its own thing, like, for example, in Xenoblade 2, you have Gormott and Uriah, they'd be separate places. But in 3, you kind of have like, it's kind of like Xenoblade 1 where you can walk from area to area, but now you might have 2 or 3 areas under the one thing called a region. So, for example, the starting region, you have the Asia region. In the Asia region, you have Yazana Plains, Everblight Plain, Alfeto Valley, geez, took me a second there, Milik Meadows, Capricorn Peak, Melnus Shoulder. Like, you have all those areas combined into one loading zone, so you can walk all around them. Or, for example, in the second one you go to, Fornus, you have Elase Highway, Aegis Wilderness, Reby Flats, Raybell Tableland, Dana Desert. Like, you have so many places like under the one loading zone now. Not fully open world, but it's the closest one we have on Switch, because Monolith, please port X. I want X on Switch. I mean, I already have X, but like, I'd like it on Switch too, please. The performance when exploring these open worlds is usually quite good. It never really dips unless you're in Erythia Sea, because that makes my Switch take off like we're at Heathrow Airport, like. And while you're out and exploring the world, you can find things like enemy skirmishes, which is just when you can see like the soldiers of Keves and Agnes maybe fighting each other, or you could see some Brogs versus Crustips, you know, just wildlife fighting. You can find items all over the ground, containers located around the place. When you're walking around, your party might comment on something. For example, if, I don't know, there's a big carving in the wall, they might go, ooh, look at that, what does this mean? Or something like that. I don't think there actually is a carving in the game, that's just what came to mind. Or if there's a cave, they'll say, ooh, let's check what's in that cave. On the world, there will also be things called Pharaonis Hulks. They are abandoned Phroneses, which is what is like the big mechs inside the colonies. And you can power them up using ether cylinders that you'd find located around the world. And you can use that to set up like a new base camp, get like a fabricator, which will give you some of the item drops that you can find in the area. So if you don't want to go grind for them, they're there. You just gotta pay for the fabricator. And as I mentioned about colonies, colonies are like your towns and cities in this game. While I don't think they're as good as the previous games, which had unique looking towns and cities, it works perfectly for what the world is trying to tell you. There is no culture, there is nothing like that. It's just fighting and fighting. That's all they know. They don't have time for cultures and different, like, to adapt to their environments. Really, it's just Phronis, some tents, and like a bath. That's all they have there. You have a shop. That's it's very similar. While that does seem a bit lazy in kind of game design and also a bit boring, it works perfectly for the world that they're trying to sell here in Aionios. Aionios is a well-developed world. You can tell how the fighting has affected it. You can see evidence of fighting. For example, in Everblight Plain, the whole area has become scorched from combat. The only area that hasn't been affected by combat really is Erythia Sea, because they can't fight on the sea, because the Phronis would just sink. So I love how you can kind of tell what areas have been affected by the combat of the two nations. It adds some life and kind of makes you more into the world of Aionios. So I want to take a moment, take a break from all the main stuff, and go on to some side content. There is plenty of side content in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I have 250 hours on my main save from doing side content between New Game and New Game Plus. There's easily 150 hours waiting for you without New Game Plus. And, well, the side quests in this game are great. They're the best in the mainline numbered games, and I would say they're in line with Xenoblade X's, which had the best in the series at one stage. I feel like now 3 is up there with it. Even during the side quests, you get so much party interaction, even from the non-voiced ones. Speaking of voiced ones, hero quests. Those are how you unlock new heroes, which will give you new classes, which you can change your arts and your weapons for your characters. The quests are so well written. For example, some of them I really remember, like the ones at Colony Mew, where you have like Fiona struggling to save her friends, and then you have Irma and all that. You have Ashira, how she just kind of wants to die for some reason. You have Xeon and his potatoes. Juniper with Colony Tau, and how they are isolated from the rest of the world. They live so differently, they have to grow their own food. Or Captain Triton, where he makes you go around the sea and you have to do different challenges, and he keeps trying to win even though he's just trying to rig it, and his own crew don't even let him rig it. The only thing with the side quests is that you have to be careful not to do too many if you don't want to be over leveled for the next story boss, due to the fact that there's so much side content to do between side quests and killing unique monsters and exploring the map. You really need to manage how much you're doing if you want to stay in level for the whole game. Otherwise you could be like level 70 going into chapter 3. Okay, maybe not chapter 3, but chapter 5. And like, it's important because you can't level down in this. So managing how many side quests you do is kind of it's kind of unfortunate, because the side content is so good. But just a heads up for any new players. Okay, and I've been purposefully saving this for nearer the end due to the fact that talking about this game's combat is a doozy. There is a lot to talk about here. So, like the other Xenoblade games, your very basic form of attacking is walking up to the enemy, and you will auto-attack if you're standing still. Auto-attacks are going to be the base of your combat. Things that you can do off of auto-attacks are cancelling. So when your auto-attack lands a hit, if you hit the button for your arts, which will be mapped to your X, Y, and B buttons, A will be mapped to your talent art, which you have to charge up. So you can cancel into that too. So when the auto-attack hits, you hit one of those buttons, A if your talent art is charged up, and it will do something called an art cancel. It will boost the damage and reduce the delay between animations and hits so you can attack faster. Then, so in this game you have two forms of art charge up. You have cooldowns, which come from Xenoblade 1 and X. They have cooldown based ones where you don't have to attack or anything. You just, once you're in the combat, once you use the art, it'll start recharging up over time. And then you have auto attack recharge, like you had in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So once you use an auto attack, it'll recharge your art gauge. Both have their negatives and their positives. Like, for example, the negatives of cooldown is that cooldowns can take a long time to recharge. But the pros of them can be, even if you're missing your attacks, it's still recharging, or if you're moving, it's recharging. Whereas the negatives of the auto attack based art recharge would be that if your attack is missing, if you miss your attack, you can't recharge that gauge. Or if you are moving, since you can't auto attack while moving, you're going to be taking longer to recharge your gauge. But the pros of our auto attack recharge would be it's a lot faster to recharge those arts if you have good dexterity and you're landing all your hits. And when you art cancel with the auto attack recharge, that also recharges it as if you just did an auto attack. Some classes will use different auto attack patterns, like for example Zephyr will have like this 2-hit thing, so it'll charge it up bit by bit each hit, whereas cancelling then will do as if it did the full 2-hit combo. The way this game's combat kind of allows you to customize is through the game's classes. So for example, you gain access to all 6 party members' classes straight away. But you have to unlock the classes by playing with the character unless they're S ranked with that character, which will be whoever unlocks the class from that hero character that you're trying to get it from. So in the beginning, Noah has S rank with Mio's class, so you can equip that straight away. But if you wanted to use Uni's medic gunner class, you have to battle alongside Uni using that class or anybody else using that class. So then that will gain experience towards that class, and you can unlock that one eventually after enough time fighting alongside it. Why would you want to unlock the classes? It's simple answer. When you're using a class, once you level up your class at certain points, you can unlock arts and skills that you can use on any class. You can unlock 2 master arts and two master skills, I think. So master arts are these new kind of arts that are assigned to the D-pad on your controller. A lot of people don't know that you can actually use them on their own, so if you're a new player, don't forget that. Most people assume you have to fuse them, which is this new mechanic that when your master art, which will be assigned to the D-pad, which you get from other classes, that's the only way you can use them, and your normal arts are charged up at the same time. If you press down on the CR button, it'll like fuse the 2 of them, it'll use one after the other. So if your normal art has break and your master art has topple, then you can do a break topple combo at once, because it'll do your normal art first, then your master art. And it boosts the damage of the fusion as well when you fuse them. At first you'll start off with only 1 master art slot, but as you level up, I think level 40 is when you unlock the last one, so it's not too far in. You unlock level 20 pretty fast, and that'll get you your second one, and that really speeds up building up your interlink level. Interlink level is for the new Ouroboros forms. Ouroboros is when the character from Kevis and Agnes come together to fuse into one Ouroboros. So for example, Noah and Mio, they can fuse, or Uni and Tyon, they can fuse, or Lance and Senna, they can fuse. Those are the pairs that can fuse. Each one has their own form, so Noah has an Ouroboros form and Mio has one. You can switch between them freely during the timer that you have for Ouroboros. Your interlinked level will boost the damage that your Ouroboros form is doing. It'll also help recharge your talent gauge faster. So you really want to level up that interlink gauge. It's really not effective to use interlink at level 0 or 1. You want to be level 2 minimum. And now there's new chain attacks in Xenoblade 3 as well. You have, so once you fill up your party gauge by doing things like break, topple, launch, daze or whatever, and you know, you use critical hits, and I think do roll actions, I think stuff like that kind of fills it up. Just by combating, you will fill it up. You fill up the the chain attack gauge, sorry. So when you fill up the gauge, you can press plus on the controller, that'll start a chain attack. Chain attacks work a good bit differently compared to the previous games. Whereas in Xenoblade 1 you kind of had RNG as to whether you'd get an extra round in your chain attack. That's been gone since 2. Since in 2 you built up elemental orbs during combat with your blade combos, and then you broke those orbs to continue the chain attack, so you could remove the RNG element. While the RNG element is certainly kind of back for 3, it's not as detrimental anymore, because you are most likely still going to get that 5-minute maximum round chain attack, unless you have a certain hero on, which will get you 6. Because they're hero chain orders, which all heroes have. They do their own unique things, so it's best to check them out when you get them. So when you're in a chain attack, when you attack, you'll do something called you'll gain something called TP. That'll be based on how many hits that thing had, if it gave break, or if it gave topple, or if it healed allies, or stuff like that, if it set down a field effect. And that TP will fill up the TP gauge. Once that gets to 100, you will complete a chain order which you selected at the start of the chain attack, and that's kind of like your round. You'll get a bonus from that chain order at the end of the round. Some last for the whole chain attack, like an attack up boost would be very handy. Some don't. Some increase like the power multiplier of your things, such as Ashira. She can boost it by like I think 200% at her max one, maybe even higher. So when you're in this chain attack, attackers will get 125 times TP if they attack first. So it's good to generally start with attackers at the beginning, especially if you want to like get combos up, because for example Stannis class Ogre has great break chances because of some of her skills, so you can get that combo going in the chain attack and use the damage multiplier to boost that damage. There's a lot of thinking actually that could go into chain attacks. And so once you use attacker, if you use a healer, it won't go over 99 TP, so then you can use a defender last to finish off the chain attack and bring back the member with the most TP, which will most likely be your attacker because of the 125% boost it gets when it goes first. If you don't get 100 TP, the chain attack ends and you don't get your chain order. So for a while in the game you kind of just have that and your hero order, which is your hero character that you bring with you, which is like a 7th party member that you can't control. They're just there to help out. If you choose them in the chain attack, it won't consume the gauge. This is how you can get 5. So you have 3 from your main party members, 1 from your hero, and now this is what I want to talk about, Ouroboros orders. So since we have your Ouroboros pairs like Noah and Mio, for example, if you use Noah round 1 and as his chain order, and then you use Tyon in the middle in round 2, and then you use Mio round 3 after using, use your healer round 3 and then use Mio round 4. Since you use Noah and Mio, you will get the Ouroboros order, and that'll give you your 5th round on the chain attack. Ouroboros orders bring back every character that is out, like that hasn't been brought back through your Bravos or your Amazings, which is when you get like over 150% or over 200%. They'll bring back more characters into the chain attack, and that's how you keep it going. And Ouroboros orders are very powerful, and you'd want to be getting them to do big damage. They help. You unlock them around like chapter 4 or the end of chapter 3. There isn't much more to combat besides, getting classes and new arts and skills. A few other bits will unlock later in the game, so I can't really talk about them for spoiler reasons, but there is a bit more on the way, not too much, but a bit. So that covers combat for the game. So now that we've talked about all major aspects of the game, I think it's about time I finally gave my opinion after 400 hours of gameplay. So, in terms of story, I would give it kind of like a 7-ish on the scale. Very good up until chapter 6, then it fell off a little bit, but good. The world and exploration, probably give it like a 7 as well. It wasn't as interesting as Xenoblade 1 or 2 was to explore. Those just felt very open, very good. And like the worlds felt a lot more interesting, and like they captivated me more than what was going on in 3. I get that some of it was meant to be destroyed and touched by war or like old and decayed, but it felt like there still should have been a bit more. Then in side content, I'm gonna have to give this a 9, lad. The side content in this game is great. I enjoyed doing every side quest in this game, really. None of them really felt like they dragged on or were like unfair. Most of them were enjoyable. And combat, I would probably give it around an 8. It's not the best combat in the series. I still think that goes to Xenoblade 2. But it does a good job at fusing both systems. And it stands out doing it the way it does. It's more simple than Xenoblade 2 because it did throw off a lot of people, so it makes sense that they kind of bring it back to a simpler form for 3. But I'd give it an 8. It does kind of get repetitive if you don't have many things to change up, but very good still. So yeah, that kind of covers my thoughts. Despite those numbers kind of being a bit low, okay, I'm gonna change the story to a 8.5 actually, now that I think about it. And I'm going to give the game an overall rating of about 9 out of 10. Because it's definitely not perfect, but it was a very enjoyable experience all around. It's definitely the most polished out of any of the Xenoblade games. 2 will still reign on top for me, even though it's the most flawed out of any of the games, but it just felt the best to me. So yeah, I would say Xenoblade 3 is probably my second favorite game of all time.